Today's episode is brought to you by Taft Law and its Franchise Advance program, a one-of-a-kind program developed by your host, Josh Brown, to help entrepreneurs assess, convert, and grow your business the right way through sound franchise structures. To learn more, go to taftlaw.com and type Franchise Advance Program in the search bar.
If you think like, act like, or are trying to grow like a franchise, then the Franchise Euphoria podcast is for you. Hello and welcome everybody. Josh Brown here, and I created this podcast for one main goal: to help people who are trying to grow their business through franchising or franchise-like structures to do it the right way. I've been practicing law now as a franchise lawyer for many, many years, and I've seen it done the right way and the wrong way. And this podcast is not filled with a bunch of legal mumbo jumbo. Rather, I talk with real people, people who have been there, have done it, are doing it right now. And I also dive deep into specific topics related to franchising. So if this is of interest to you, you are at the right place. Enjoy. On today's episode of Franchise Euphoria, I'm thrilled to have on Prakash Karamchandani, who is one of the co-founders of Balance Grille, which is an Asian fast casual concept that is redefining the franchising and restaurant industries. The brand is focused on clean eating, menu transparency, authenticity, and tech innovation, setting it apart from its competitors and positioning itself as a rising leader of the Asian fast casual category. And for purposes of this interview, we're calling you PK. Is that right, Prakash?
That's perfect with me, Josh.
So that's what you're called, right? People call you that.
Everybody calls me that, even my parents.
Do they really? That's awesome. Well, so welcome to Franchise Euphoria. Thrilled to have you on. I always love to learn about concepts that I'm not that familiar with, and also love to learn about the backgrounds of the founders. You're a co-founder along with HoChan Jang, who's not on the podcast today. But why don't you tell that story a little bit in terms of how you guys became co-founders and teamed up with this concept?
Absolutely. I appreciate the opportunity, Josh. I met CJ, as we call him, PK and CJ, HoChan, back in college. We were graduating from undergraduate school here at the University of Toledo. Both with business degrees. We met each other in school, instantly kind of best friends. And we graduated in 2008, which was not a great time to graduate with a degree in finance. And so we spent about a year looking for a job. And after that, CJ approached me one day and he said, "Hey, man, I am having no luck with this job search. I am highly considering opening a restaurant. My parents come from a restaurant background. I am very much into fitness, eating clean, and I think I want to start an Asian concept around that. Do you want to help me out?" And I said, "Yeah, absolutely." At that time, I was doing IT work. I had done some web design, but I was mainly doing coding, and I thought it would be super easy to jump in, being fresh out of undergraduate school, even in the midst of the depression. You kind of get this sense that all you have to do is write a business plan because they taught you that in class. And you walk into a bank and the bank will write you a check and then you open a business and life will be good. And
then they're doing stories on you. And I mean, it's so easy, PK.
Supposedly, if you listen to my professors, it was just that easy. No, I'm just joking. They did caution us quite a bit. But we really did start off that naive, and I helped them out with a business plan, came up with some basic branding and a sketch of a menu. And we went from bank to bank to bank to bank 9 times over. And we're turned down mainly because, we come from immigrant families, both first generation, don't really have collateral, already have student loan debt and some credit card debt. And it's tough. It's tough in an economic downturn to get a loan. It's tough to get a loan for a brand new concept. That's not a franchise. And so we were turned down multiple times, but we really didn't give up. We knew this is what we wanted to do. And so we actually just burned every credit card we possibly could. We used up every credit card we could get our hands on. Went to IKEA and got a credit card there for like $9,000. Went to Home Depot. They gave us a credit line, each one of us $30,000. And I negotiated a good deal with our landlord at the time, who was one of my IT clients. And he gave us all of our TI up front. And so we actually started the whole concept with no capital.
Well, okay, so that's not stressful at all. So obviously, and you hear this as a common theme, I would say, with a lot of startups, right? I mean, because I have this philosophy, and I love banks, right? Banks serve their purpose, and but I feel like every bank, their slogan should be, "We are here when you need us the least." I mean, I feel like that's the accurate. Now, I say that I'm not trying to slander banks. I do love them, but here's the reality: when you go to a bank and you actually really, really need the money, you don't have the collateral. You don't have the support that's going to make them, when they go to their committees and go and make the decision, they're going to say, no, we're not doing this, because really a bank is not in a risk business. Really, banks are trying to eliminate risk as best they can. And if you're fully collateralized, great, they'll loan you all the money in the world up to a certain point, to where they feel like they can get upside down. And I think that that's a smart business model. But at the same time, to your point, PK, it's not as easy as people make it seem to say, hey, I'm going to take my great business idea that I put into this beautiful looking, spreadsheet and 3-ring binder and walk into the bank and talk to somebody, and they're just going to loan me the money.
Yeah, it truly is not that easy. It actually took us a while. So we opened our first store in 2010. And we actually ended up having to do the same type of fundraising, basically just using credit cards and whatever we could get our hands on. But I was able to sell off a portion of my IT business in 2012. And so we were able to open our second store. And it was only after our second location was really successful that we were able to get bank financing. And that's when we properly did our legal structure, and, banks at that time, just as you said a few minutes ago, were clamoring for our business. And so we were able to build the next few stores bank financed.
Now, where did you start? Did you start this in Toledo?
Yeah, Toledo, Ohio. It's where we grew up.
And that was it. So the first one opened in 2010.
Yeah, 2010. Our second one in 2012. We then took some time and really needed to figure out some infrastructure, training, figure out supply chain. We have a super unique menu, as you mentioned, fast casual Asian fusion, but we do bowls, tacos, snacks, and a product called bubble tea. So we have to import bubble tea. We've been using green packaging since day one. We were importing that. This is back in, like I said, 2012, 2013. The Cisco's, the US Foods of the world were not carrying green packaging at that time. And so there was a point in time there where we were doing a relatively high volume, a couple $1 million in sales, and we were drop shipping our compostable bowls by FedEx every morning before we opened.
Well, and you and your partner, CJ, you have two different roles in the company, right? I mean, he sort of heads up the kitchen operations, and you focus on the business side of things, including, the efficiencies of the process, the efficiencies of the system, the customer experience, and the franchising piece. Is that how you guys kind of divvy up your roles?
Yeah, that's exactly right. We found an amazing partnership. He's still my best friend after all of these years.
That's amazing in and of itself, because you don't hear that very often.
Yeah, and that's really unfortunate, because I think business is best done with partners. And when you all come together, the sum is greater than the total of the parts. I think that's the quote. But it is exponential value that comes out of really great relationships. And I'm proud to say, I tell people all the time, as stressful as it is sometimes being in the restaurant business, I do get to go to work every day with my best friend, which is awesome. And we have really good retainment. So most of the people around us, the people in our leadership team, the people I interact with every day, we work together for years. And it's just
take us back for a minute. Yeah, take us back for a minute to, you open up that location 2010. You and CJ, obviously you were friends, but you're getting to know each other in a working relationship. Sounds like you guys were on the same page in terms of divvying up roles. But what was that like, getting this going, having the stress of, obviously you paid with credit cards, and so you at a bare minimum have to pay the minimum balance dues, and you're out there working your butt off to get this thing going. Talk about that first location and that experience of getting it up and going.
Yeah, it was tough. I try and put myself back there sometimes, but it just seems so unbelievable compared to where we are now.
You've blocked it out of your memory, PK?
It is, I mean, it's really a crazy thing that we did. We really had nothing to lose. So I think I got to start there.
Well, that's the key, right? You're in your 20s, right? You're in your 20s at the time, right?
I mean, we're 24. We didn't really know what we were doing. I was doing IT work, as I mentioned. So I was a subcontractor at sometimes for some electrical contractors, and we really broke down the construction. We did it all ourselves. We bought all the materials. It was a struggle. It took us forever. We had no idea what we were doing, from architecture to permitting to contracting to inspections and so on. I mean, it was just bumbling all the way through it. And then we got opened. We hired 10 people. We trained them, and he was running back of house. I was running front of house. It was a very simple operation. Day one, I think we did like $300. It was really depressing. But we built it, slowly by slowly. We made sure that every single person that we were able to get into our door had such a great experience. They'd go out and tell 3 people. And doing it that way.
How did you do that? I think it's because it sounds like it comes a little bit natural to you, but talk, for the people out there who are trying to differentiate their business and trying to provide that customer service, what are some of the specific things you were doing to make sure that, hey, we all know in any business, and fast casuals included, right? I mean, things are going to go haywire from time. You're dealing with food, you're dealing with people, you're dealing with a lot of people. So what did you do to make sure that people ended up walking out happy?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the goal. That's actually what we set our mission to, is that we're here to create happiness, and food is our platform to do that. How we did that, I wish I could say it was some magic formula, but it's really just the most old school basics of hospitality. When people come in, do your best to remember their name. We made sure, we used a POS system that could record and had a CRM system. And we would make sure we asked, obviously for their name and bring up what they've ordered in the past. Second is what I call our golden rule of customer service, which is once a customer comes in and they spend money with us, that transaction ends with that customer being happy. It doesn't matter what happens in the middle. If they don't like their food and we remake it, so be it. If we have to send them out, with a little gift, a little surprise and delight, that's what we're going to do. But overall, the goal is the customer is going to come in. They are not here to purchase a product. They are here to purchase an emotion. They're here to walk out and be happy. And whatever we can do to make that happen, whether it be a smile, a small conversation, free product, whatever it is, we're going to do it.
Because it's an experience that you're really selling.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
I mean, that's the thing about food and food concepts and the restaurant businesses. There's so many of them, right? I mean, that's in part why it's so hard, because there's just so much competition. But it's also hard because you're dealing with a lot of people. You're dealing with and people inherently as humans make mistakes, and then you're dealing with people on the other side to have to rectify those situations. And presumably things go well too, but that makes it challenging on a daily basis. And so at the end of the day, these are hard businesses to run. But I have found that there is no successful brand that I've seen where you don't have to just get down to the nitty gritty, and there is no substitute for getting in there and just being present at the business. I mean, I'd love to hear you talk. It sounds like you guys were present there and still are every. And I think whenever we're talking about a franchise system, PK, there's some people out there who think, well, if I'm going to buy into that or become a franchisee, it's just going to run by itself. And I like to dispel that myth and say, listen, a franchise system can help you, but you've got to run that business. You've got to be there. You've got to be engaged. You've got to make people feel special, and you've got to be apprised of what's going on, so that when the issues do arise, you can address them directly and you can turn a negative experience into a positive one.
Absolutely. Yeah, you have to have a great operator, and you have to have someone who is passionate about the impact that we're making, right? So it's great to get into a business. It's great to be profitable. Profit is power. It's one of those things I tell my staff all the time. Revenue is relevance. Profit is power. There's nothing wrong with making a profit. But there is something greater than that. Like I said earlier, I mean, you have this opportunity to make hundreds of people's days better. That's an incredible blessing to be able to do that. And you have this ability to take a business, provide really great employment opportunities, living wages, create a great impact on the community. And you really need to be someone who takes pride in that. And that's what drives them, not just the ability to set up a business and turn a profit.
Well, and that's what drives the experience too. I mean, from my vantage point, that's where the operators and the entrepreneurs, the franchisors and the franchisees who approach it from that perspective inherently get that the name of the game is the experience or the emotion, as you said. And yes, you have to have good food, but having good food and a crappy experience means they're not coming back. That's what that means, right? Having a good experience, and maybe you have an off day and the food wasn't great, but if you handled it well, that will bring them back, right? Because that, because it's about the experience at the end of the day. At what point, when you guys are running this restaurant, did you start thinking about, okay, now we want to look at a second location?
So we always wanted to create a scalable concept, even day one. I mean, we were super naive about it, like I told you, but our dream was never to build a single restaurant. We wanted to create a business model that scaled. We wanted to create a business model that created an impact, not only for our own lives, but like I said, for the communities that we serve. I think we have a really incredible product at its basis. What we're able to do is take produce and bring it front and center. It's a lot of where we get our name from, Balance. It's about bringing more of an Asian standard diet to the forefront and creating a fast food, fast casual concept that can be super fresh, where everything is made on site. No rethermalization, sauces made in-house, the ability to source local on a scalable basis. And that's really what we designed our restaurant concept to be able to accomplish.
And did you open up the second location yourself? So you guys were now operating a first and a second together?
Yes. Yeah. We actually only started franchising this year.
So you open up the second location, and you know, one of the things we talk about a lot on this show, and I just think it's really important, is, you know, when you go from 1 to 2, oftentimes that's harder than going from 2 to 4 to 6 to 8, because when you go from 1 to 2, you very clearly, in most instances, see very clearly what your deficiencies are, where things could be more efficient, where maybe, we haven't addressed this situation, where there's flaws in your POS system, there's flaws in your reporting, there's flaws in your distribution, the chains, and where you're getting your food from, food suppliers and so forth. Talk about that, because I think that's one of those underestimated things that, you know, when I'm talking to people about franchising their business, I'm adamant that you've got to have at least a couple locations up and running for a significant period of time, at least a year or longer, preferably longer, so you can work out the kinks of that system. Talk about that.
Yeah, and you are absolutely correct. It is tough to get an understanding of what it takes to create a scalable business until you've scaled it yourself. Not only 2 locations. I would go further than that and say you have to be multi-location and you have to be multi-regional, because until then, you don't tackle all of the issues to thoroughly understand all the inputs it takes to create your business model. Going from 1 to 2, there's a lot of ways you can cheat that. What I mean is you can share employees back and forth. One person theoretically, can manage 2 locations. To stretch, it's not bad as long as they're geographically close. A lot of your same vendors will carry over. A lot of your really basic, simple employee systems will transfer over as well. But it's when you go from 2 stores to 3 stores, that's when you need a scalable system of training, onboarding, training. That's when you need true supply chain management. It's difficult to pass inventory back and forth across 3 locations without like a central warehousing system. When you have 2 locations, if you're short on somebody can just drive from one to the other and go get it. You don't need as many documented systems. But when you get from 2 to 3, everything needs a standard. And it is really, in our industry, it is about creating emotion, but it's also about doing it consistently. You
got to have consistent delivery of services, period. I mean, you just have 100%. To do things. Yeah, I always joke with people that people are funny, consumers, myself included, when you talk to people and they go, I just want to go local. I just want to go local, and you go, well, okay, I get that. But if you go to, local, Bob's sub shop and you go local and you don't get a consistent experience each time you go, or, half the time you go, they don't have what you want, or, there's just not a consistency about it. You very quickly go away from, I want to go local to, I want to go to some place where I know what I'm going to get.
100%. Who wants it to be a risk? A weekday lunch when you've got a short lunch break, or you just need to pick up dinner for your family on a weeknight. Who really wants to take a risk with that? Everybody works hard for their money. And when you go out to eat, like you said earlier, there's dozens, hundreds of choices, probably, depending on your locale. And any one of them would be happy to have your business. And so you have to be able to deliver consistently.
So, PK, at some time here recently, I believe, and you'll have to tell me the time frame, but you guys, there was an announcement that you guys joined forces with Pivotal Growth Partners, which is a growth and development organization focused on accelerating small and emerging brands, effectively helping to scale them. My first question is, how many restaurants did you guys have before you partnered up with Pivotal Growth?
So you have 4 corporate locations before we teamed up with PGP.
And what led to that decision to do that? And what was sort of the thought process you went through? Because obviously, whenever you partner up with anybody, whether it's PGP or anybody else, you're now taking this in a different direction to a certain degree, because it's no longer the 2 of you. So, what was that conversation like, and what sort of led to this partnership?
So the principals of PGP, Brian Stevens, Cameron Cummins, they've been in the restaurant franchising business for decades, especially combined. And Brian, for example, he's been with Yum Brands. They both went with another pizza brand that's here in Toledo called Marco's Pizza. They took that brand from 100 to 1,000 locations. So they've definitely got pedigree and experience in restaurant franchising, of which is something I don't really have. We have looked at franchising for quite a while. We actually just wanted to stick to corporate growth. And pre-COVID, we were doing a local round to raise investment capital to scale on a corporate basis. And it was just as COVID hit that we had subscription agreements out and had some confirmations there, money flowing into our escrow account, and we decided to shut down the round and give the money back, because that was not the time to be raising capital going into COVID. And as you mentioned, it's important to be on the ground, and that's how CJ and I pivoted throughout COVID. And what we did was really just rebuild the entire business from the inside out. And in doing that, we improved our profitability and compounded. We grew our top line like 50% pre-COVID. So, our unit economics were doing a lot better. And throughout that, we'd stayed in contact with Brian and Cameron. And as they formed their firm, PGP, they really had all of the features, the infrastructure, the human capital that we didn't have. Obviously, they bring a lot of really great strategic vision and a lot of contacts and a lot of experience to help us see around corners. But they also have kind of a shared services model. So for us to go out and recruit a construction manager at our size, or even a project manager, or like a paralegal, real estate, site selection. These are all things that either we would have to outsource on a fractional basis, or we would have to insource, hire for, and burn a lot of capital to sustain before we achieve the scale that really supports that type of G&A. And so their model is great because it's a shared services model. And it's been great to partner with them, with their experience.
And when you say shared services, just so that the audience, kind of understands that, you mean they can use their people across multiple brands, locations. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. That's why they focus on emerging brands. So they can build a world-class development team, which they definitely have. The people they have there are wicked smart, and they can share those resources across multiple brands. And really, we don't need a ton, but we do need that full suite of experience. And so that's a difficult thing to absorb when you're 4 or 5 units, that type of infrastructure, that type of development G&A. And so being able to access some of the best in the business, even just on a incremental or fractional basis, is great. It's amazing for our brand.
And did you reach out to them, or how did you guys find each other?
Well, I actually knew them because they were with that pizza brand that I mentioned earlier here in Toledo. And when they retired from that brand, we continued to remain in touch. And, just play by play as we made it through COVID and as we were getting out of it, they asked, hey, love what you're doing, love what you've done with Balance. Now that things are stabilized, do you want to grow? And I was like, yeah, absolutely, we do. And they mentioned there's a great opportunity out there if we want to scale and do it in a consistent way, that we could reach out to a network of multi-unit, typically multi-branded franchisees that would really become value-added investors for the brand. And that was our mentality as well. And so they really helped us craft a really unique, really personalized franchise opportunity for us, because we have a really clear vision of what we want out of a franchise system. I'm not looking to sell like 50 franchises. I'd love to open 50 locations, but I really just want a handful, like 10 to 12 franchisees that I really work with closely and bring in like a partner. And so they're helping me structure that.
Yeah, I mean, you're looking at multi-unit opportunities, right? Somebody comes in, buys 5 or more locations, let's say, and commits to build them out over a schedule.
That is correct. Yeah, absolutely.
So how has your role changed, and how has CJ's role changed, if at all, with this partnership?
Well, I get to get development off of my plate, which candidly is not something I was particularly good at. I bumbled my way through all of those construction projects and lease negotiations, and we've done okay for ourselves, but we could definitely, obviously, do better. My passion is really in marketing and technology and systematizing our processes. I absolutely love that. I love the application of technology and building systems that scale. And it's been amazing to be able to just focus on the parts of the business that I love and hand over development, which is, something that for a long time, I think, Josh, lived kind of rent free in my mind. It was this consistent stress of, how are we going to grow? How do I get to the next level? What am I doing today to set me up for 6 months or a year from now? And to be able to give that up and just say, okay, I'm going to triage these problems. I'm going to work on these projects, and we're going to continue to move this brand forward in a really sustainable and scalable way is just amazing. And then CJ,
it probably felt like a big weight off your shoulders, PK.
Yeah, it did. And it's really empowering too, to build on your team, add partners to your roster, and have them take an interest in your brand is really validating.
What about CJ though? You were just going to say, he obviously was always focused on the kitchen, was always focused on sort of maybe some of the back end type stuff. What was the impact for him?
Well, CJ still runs operations, but he is very much focused on menu more now. So we have a pretty well built out operations team. We have a bench, and so
I
he doesn't
love
spend.
that. I love that. You know why I love that? Because I don't know him at all, just know from what I've read and what you've described, but he seems like a creative type, right? Who's going to focus on, if he's focusing on the menu, and oftentimes creatives like that are best to focus on the menu and let operational people come in and do the operations.
Yeah, he is really uniquely talented. So he is a total like left brain creative, and you can look him up on Instagram too. He's really into design and branding and product creation, and he loves to wake up every day and do something creative, which is amazing. But he's also a people person, and he loves to build teams and he loves to build people, and that alone, that combination is amazing for an operator. And he's done a phenomenal job building out the people side of our team. As much as I've focused on building out the systems that support them and the processes that support them, he's really built them.
So what keeps you up at night now? I mean, obviously, you hearing your story, you've done really well. It's not every day that I talk to people who, came out right out of the gate, started a restaurant, maxed out credit cards, and all ended well. So I know that there's challenges. I know that there's things that still keep you up at night. So right now at this point in the brand, obviously you're in a growth mode, you're emerging. I love the way that you've slow growed this thus far. Your slow growth. I often tell people, you got to grow slow at the start so that you can grow fast later on. And I'll say that's not the case for everything. There are definitely models and systems and so forth where they've grown super, super fast and it's worked out. But I would say the more tried and true is, especially if you're trying to do this on your own without going immediately, to the equity side, is, you gotta take your time to build this thing out, as you've done. And now you've seemingly positioned yourself very well for the future. But what keeps you up at night?
I don't mean to sound arrogant when I say this, but I've been through years where I stayed up at night and I worried about a lot of things, but I sleep really well right now. The business it's growing, it's thriving. We continue to grow year on year sales at a really incredible pace. I am able to do things now, that I really only dreamed of. These resources that we have behind us, this team that we've been able to build from the inside on the Balance side, the team that we've been able to augment with from PGP, these resources are just incredible. And I've been able to really achieve a lot in a short period of time that I've really wanted to for the brand. From the branding side of it, like I said, I keep going back to systems, but just the way that we've just redone our customer experience digitally through our website and web applications and integrated all that in. It's amazing. I can only wish I had more hours in the day.
Don't we all, right?
Yeah, but I'm not stressed. I am very happy with the progress that we've made. And I have such a clear vision for what is coming in the future, and it is manifesting. It is happening. And it's a good feeling.
For those that want to learn more about Balance Grille, go to balancegrill.com/franchise, balancegrill.com/franchise. And grill has an E on it. So it's Balance Grille with an E.com franchise /franchise. Thank you so much, PK, for coming on and sharing your story. I really think it's an inspiring story. And at this point, you've got what, 4 locations throughout Ohio. You've got one, I believe, in Colorado, but you're right now, you guys are actively in expansion mode, looking for folks to come on, operators to come on, to look at multi-unit opportunities. As we kind of finish up this interview, talk about who's sort of an ideal match for that.
Yeah, it is definitely having experience as a franchisee, multi-unit, preferably multi-branded, already have some level of infrastructure and is looking to add another brand to their portfolio, that's a great profile for a franchisee. But that's just what we're looking for on paper. What we're really looking for is, what's that experience look like leading up to Discovery Day, during Discovery Day, afterwards? What's the communication like? I really meant it when I said it earlier. What we're looking for is partners that we treat as value-added investors. They're not just franchisees. They're not our customers. They're our partners. And so I'm really looking for that type of vibe, like what I have with CJ, or what I have with Brian and Cameron and the team there. I'm looking for that out of our franchisees. I want to be able to, text them whenever and have them text me whenever. That's the type of working relationship that I'm looking for. And I really want to focus on building a world-class brand together and, have minimal, barriers in between.
It sounds like you're well on your way. I look forward to staying, on top of what you guys are doing, and maybe down the road a little bit, we'll have an update episode to see how it's all going. But in the interim, keep up the great work, and great to speak with you, PK.
For sure. Thank you so much, Josh. I appreciate you.
Thank you so much for tuning into another episode of Franchise Euphoria. If you enjoyed it, please head over to Apple Podcasts and leave a rating and review. It really helps to get this show out to more and more people. Also, if you have any questions, have ideas for guests or topics, please email me, josh@indyfranchiselaw.com. That's Josh at franciselaw.com. And finally, please note that this podcast is for entertainment and educational purposes and is not in any way, shape, or form meant to be any kind of legal advice. If you're seeking legal advice, please contact a lawyer. Have a great one. Happy franchising.